So with eFootball 25 around the corner, I kind of want to wrap up the year on eFootball 24 and give my kind of favorite players for each position and my dream team for the end of the year. So we're going to go through all the players that I've used and which I think are the best. So we aren't including players I haven't used, obviously. So this isn't a who are the best players in eFootball 24. This is a who are my favorite. I will be doing a who are the best players as well. So I'd like you guys in the comments or in my Discord to let me know who the best players you think are. So everyone you guys have used. One guy who I know should be in this the best team is probably Taram, but I don't have Taram. But one guy for certain who should be number one is Petr Cech. I think he's the best goalkeeper in the game. There's no one close to him. I did a video testing between Petr Cech and Peter Schmeichel, and Petr Cech won pretty convincingly. I think that's true. If I had to give an honorable mention though, I think Dida is up there because he was a free player. We got him for a free spin similar to the pack with the Nielsen out at the moment, and I think he was in my team for how many games I got with him? 500. So he was in my team for a while. So I'm also gonna do a free to play. Who's the best free to play team as well? So let me know who you guys think are the best free to play players. But if you look at Czech stats, just amazing, all 90s except for Parian. They probably got 1,000 games with him. Yeah, 1,500. And I do have a few skills with him that he doesn't really need. But one thing I will say is last week, I feel like he's been a bit worse. And it's like just as soon as the other Czech came out, the newer one. So I don't know if it's a correlation between that or if it's just that Konami have messed with goalkeepers. But particularly, I'm noticing Petr Cech parrying the ball to my opponents more often. All right, so next thing, our next position we're going to look at is fullback. So I have two players that I'm going to choose between and one honorable mention. First off, honorable mention, Roberto Carlos. But this is an old card. The new booster one would be the one that's out in that free pack would be kind of I know I don't have that, but it's basically the same as this card, just a bit better. So that would be an honorable mention, and he could be the most fun to play with as a fullback. These guys aren't as fun, but I do like both of these. So Tomiyasu and Costa Curta. So which one would I prefer? At left back, I think I'd actually prefer Costa Curta than Tomiyasu. And I think it's mainly just because of one stat. I was having a look at it earlier, and I think it's the lofted pass. Look, 91 lofted pass there on Costa Curta versus how many on Tomiyasu. We're gonna only get 73, and I like to pass with my defenders. Like they need to be good on the ball, and Tomiyasu is good on the ball, but Costa Curta is very good on the ball. So I do notice I like Costa Curta more, particularly at left back. At centre back though, I wouldn't play Costa Curta centre back in a four back. I'd only play him in a three back out wide. In a four back, I think he's too short. So Tomiyasu in that sense would be better there, and I do think Tomiyasu is a very good centre back. So Tomiyasu is kind of an honourable mention as well, but he's like it's marginal between him and Costa Curta. One thing is I actually don't start Tomiyasu because he has super sub by default, so usually I bring him off the bench. So I'm gonna go with Costa Curta because it's my favorite players like that I like, and I like his passing ability better on the ball. So next we're gonna look at right back, and for me there's only one name that's gonna come up here, and it's Phil Blam. This Phil Blam's amazing. I really do like him. Other right backs, honestly, I don't think there's any right back that comes close. I use this Trent, but this Trent is old. Like this is a eFootball 23 Trent. So yeah, he's a bit outdated. And same with Ben White. I just don't think edge crossing is too important of a skill for a kind of traditional crossing game. I think it's best for crosses to the edge of the box, not if you're trying to score headers with it. But this Lamb is amazing. Like look at those dribbling stats. That's like a winger's dribbling stats. Great passing. Like if you look at just his attacking stats, pretty close to like an attacking midfielder. How you'd expect an attacking midfielder to be built. And then he's got the defensive and the physicals too. Not 91 balance. So this guy's a great dribbler. Over 500 games on him. Oh, sorry. If we look at Costa Curta, I've got over 1,000 games on him, and Tomiyasu probably 400. I'm gonna guess 596, 600. Okay, so a bit off on Tomiyasu, but it does go to show that I do actually rate this Costa Curta, and even though he's free to play, I do think he's better than this card, who people would say is one of the best cards in the game. So next we're gonna go to centre backs, and this centre back one I know is gonna people are gonna be interested in this, and there's gonna be debate in the comments probably. Best centre back I've used in the game that's not a destroyer, because I like to have a build up and a destroyer. All right. So the first centre back that's the best I've used in the game is a toss up between this Beckenbauer and this Saliba, and I would probably go for Beckenbauer just because he's a bit better on the ball, and then we'll throw Saliba in beside him for the moment. But this Beckenbauer is amazing. Look at those passing stats. Again, similar to Costa Curta. I love a defender that can pass. And we look at the passing stats in Saliba, still decent passing stats, similar to Tomiyasu. But I end up preferring Beckenbauer just because he has the better passing stats. And his defensive stats are actually a little bit better than Saliba, but I do think Saliba is better purely defensively. Probably the height and the weight. 193 versus 181 centimeters. So purely defensively, Saliba is better, but I'm someone who likes to attack and be in control of the game. So I don't need to worry purely about defending. I need to build up from the back. That'd be the best. Build up is Beckenbauer. Now, so alongside him, I'm gonna want to be doing a destroyer. So this is the ideal for me in a four back. You can go build up, but I do like having the mix. So out of these build ups, who are the best? Ruben Diaz, honorable mention, very good card. When does his contract expire? 73 days. So yeah, he would be an eFootball 24 card. He's very strong. And then this Romero. This Romero is obviously eFootball 23, but on my other account I have a different or a more updated Romero. He's very strong. But the best destroyer centre back for me is not Van Boyten. I think Van Boyten's bad. I know Dominator likes him a lot, but I really don't like him. 67 games. So the best one for me is Vieira. So Vieira is probably what people think is the best DMF in the game. I really don't like him at DMF too much. But at centre back, I think he's best at centre back, and I think he's the best centre back in the game. Not the best centre back I've used. I think he's the best centre back in the game. This guy is amazing at centre back, and similar to Beckenbauer and Costa Curta, he's got good passing. But honestly, this guy, I've never felt more confident in a defender than this Vieira, and I'm so glad that I got the position trainers on him to play him centre back. So if we're not playing Vieira, defensive midfield, who are we playing instead? We're actually playing someone who came from the same pack. We're going to play Gilberto Silva. And the thing about this Gilberto Silva, or Gilbert as I like to call him sometimes, I didn't really like him at first. He didn't stand out to me. He was okay, but he wasn't something stand out. And then on the off chance, I just think randomly put track back on him, and he became so much better. Instantly it was like, oh my god, this guy's like the best DMF in the game. Particularly if you want to play quick counter and you want to press high up the pitch. Anytime your opponent tries to start a counter attack, he's there to intercept. But yeah, that's track back put on him, and that's kind of when I started figuring out, okay, what is track back? What's it do? And it basically just increases AI dependent. So if you are wondering why your opponent's AI defending or AI midfielders are so much better at AI defending, it's probably because they have track back and probably have man marking too on their players. So try get that on your midfielders. And then the next player in centre mid, we're going to go for is Mateus, who is also a player I put track back on. And this guy is just the best box-to-box player, not in terms of play style, but I'm saying is he good in this box, in the opponent's box? Is he good in our own box, defending? This guy is nearly the perfect player. The only criticisms you can have really are he's not like the strongest in the air, and maybe his finishing isn't super clinical, but he's got enough power on his shots. 99 kicking power, you would hope so. You got enough power on his shots that even if it's not the most accurate, it should just go in. Keeper won't be able to save it. I don't know if I have clips of it, but I had a couple of goals yesterday where the keeper saves it, but it was so powerful he palmed it into his own net. But this guy is like Kante on steroids. Another honorable mention is Kante. He's very strong, and I talked about in my how to train midfielders video. Obviously, I love players that can dribble, and you'll notice that both Mateus and Kante don't actually have great dribbling stats, but I dribble a lot with these guys. And the reason is because they actually have good balance, and particularly for centre midfielders, when you're going to be running into space, I find that having good balance is more important than having good dribbling stats itself. So if you're fast and you have good balance, if you're running into space, you're more effective. Dribbling stats are more for tighter dribbling, further up the pitch. So going further up the pitch, we've got two players to pick from. Got Pirlo as one of our other centre mids. And then the other one is, and this has only been in the last like week or two that I've kind of thought that this guy is better, and it is Pedri. This Pedri has been amazing for me over the last since I got him, but particularly in the last week, I've really fallen in love with him. He's such a good dribbler, similar to Mateus. He's not got much criticisms, but the criticisms will be the same. He's not great in the air, and his finishing's a bit of a problem. He doesn't have quite a strong kicking power though, so. If Mateus is like an 8 out of 10, we'll say a 7 out of 10 actually on shooting. With that kicking power, Pedri's like a 5.5 out of 10 with his his lack of kicking power. It's still a decent amount, but it's not enough to compensate for that lower dribbling. But he's so good at dribbling that he can get into good areas and finish. Is he better than Pirlo? I honestly think he actually is. And it's just because he has got phenomenal pass, and I think phenomenal pass is something, it's a skill that's grown on me a while. If we compare their stats, dribbling wise, yeah, I would say Pedri's a bit better. Although I do feel like Pirlo can glide a bit more, which doesn't really make sense if you look at his if we look at the stats, his speed's lower, his dribbling's lower, but his balance is higher. So maybe that's what I was talking about with Kante and Mateus. But his finishing's a bit better. I would say that's true. I'd say Pirlo has been a bit more clinical for me, and he has got better defensive stats. He performed better defensively in game. I would say he does, but I don't think it's a major kind of something that moves the needle majorly, just because Mateus and Gilberto Silva can mop up 90% of what's gonna come at them. This guy's more for driving the ball forward. So that's who I'd put in orchestrator, or my kind of more attacking centre midfield role. Honorable mentions, I just want to say Xavi, one of my favourites. He was my favourite for the longest. I think he's fallen off a little bit just because I can't do the level 3 double touch with him. I don't have flip flap on him, and I've used to never use double touch, but now I pretty much spam it. So yeah, he's an honorable mention. And then another one is Jack Wilshere. He can do the level 3 double touch. He haven't flip flap. His stats just a little bit lower, but trust me, this guy is amazing. Similar to Beckenbauer. And who was the other free player? Costa Curta, yeah. I think his wheelchair is amazing. I think guys should use him. I think he's really good. In terms of box-to-box players, I do think Enzo and Douglas Luiz are very strong. So we're just going to put Pirlo back on the bench for a moment, and we're going to move him into AMF just so I can kind of get an extra player in here. So we're not using a flat midfield, we're using one with an AMF, because that's a position most people will use in their formations. So at AMF position specifically, out of all these players, who I think is the best / my favorite, I think this Messi is the best just because of his very high weak foot and kicking power. With an argument also for Baggio, very good dribbler, but I think a mix between my best and favorite. So who is my favorite to use? Who I had the most fun with? These guys, it would be Neymar. I think Neymar is one of the most well-rounded players in this game for an attacker. Look at that pass and dribbling, great finishing. His kicking power is very low, but trust me, if you watch my streams, you know I always comment this guy's kicking power is 76, but he hits it like it's 90. So if we have some clips, I'll show them, but I'll try get some actually before I upload the video. This guy is insane, and I'm so glad I got him alongside Romario. Who did I just take out? I just take out Costa Curta. Costa Curta, you need to get back in here. So moving on to left wing. So if we look at our left wingers, I uploaded a video yesterday, or maybe a couple of days ago actually now. It's talking about how good Denilson is. I do really think Denilson's very fun and a very good card. He grew on me, and I've been using him more since I uploaded my review. It doesn't quite make the cut for this video here, but I have been using them. I continue to use them since that video. So who's the best / favorite left mid out of these guys? I think we're going to start off first with the super sub. So this isn't my favorite, but if I'm playing with wingers, I always bring this guy on the bench because he has super sub, got prolific winger, and he's got crazy stats. Look at that balance, finishing, dribbling, everything. And with the super sub boost, it's just so useful. And he's a prolific winger too, which I usually have more creative playmakers. So to have someone who's gonna make runs in behind, it's so useful for me to have. So a player that I think I play at the left that I don't use at the moment because their contract is Hullet. And trust me, at left wing, he still is very effective. Most people would play him in the middle, AMF, centre forward, SS, but I have him trained to play left wing, and he's very effective there. And I think he is pretty effective for the sole fact of if I have the ball with Philip Lam here, I can play a long diagonal ball to Hullet and hit it to him there. Now, if I wasn't playing Hullet left wing, I'd play Neymar, but I wouldn't play Hullet AMF just because that long diagonal ball isn't as available to your AMF. It needs to go to your front line. And I do think if you're going to use Hullet, you might as well leverage that extra ability. Sometimes I'll also play this Messi as an SS out here on the left just because he has the very high weak foot, and you'll be able to cut inside and hit it off the left. And then another honourable mention is this Jude Bellingham, just because similar to Hullet, he's not quite as dominant in the air, but he is quite tall, 190 versus 186. But if you look at his balance, 88 balance on Bellingham and 87 on Hullet. And when you're that tall and you have that high balance, you're very effective. And this guy has a very high weak foot, and he can do the level 3 double touch. And I have put track back on him. I think Hull starts track back as well. Yeah, Hull starts track back. So they're very similar players. I bought this Bellingham to kind of act as someone I can rotate with Hullet, kind of a Hullet replacement. And it actually did work, and I think it's very effective. Hullet's one of the most unique players in the game, and Bellingham can kind of get close to him. But other left wings, Van der Vaart's okay, but I do think he's better at AMF. Ribery is overrated. Great dribbler, 89 kick and power. That's a big lie. It'll be 92 in game actually, with +3 boost. So it's the opposite of Neymar. Neymar has low kick and power, but he hits them really hard in game. Ribery has high kick and power, but doesn't hit them hard at all. So we're gonna move on to right wing now. And for right wing, it's really only one guy, and it's gonna be Mohamed Salah. And it's not just because he's a blitz curler. It does help a lot. But even if he didn't have a blitz curler skill, if it was just the same stats, I think this guy would still be my best right wing. His dribbling is insane. He always glitches through. Oh, sorry, one sec. I actually have Southgate as my manager, not Xabi Alonso, so we're not seeing the stats quite as high as they could be. Yeah, look at the stats there. 90 ball control, 95 dribbling, 91 time possession, 97 finishing. This guy is amazing. His goals to game ratio isn't the highest for me, but it's just kind of, I'm trying to stress the point that it's not his blitz curl that makes him so good. It's the ability to create chances and cause kind of chaos in my opponent's backline, because they know I want to, or they think I want to cut in and shoot with that blitz curler, but you can just weave in and out and have them confused. So he's always my right wing. Any other players? Honorable mention to this Mbappe, but this is an eFootball 23 card anyway. But he was always good right wing. And then this Bernardo Silva is very good if you don't need a kind of pacey direct threat from your right side. So if you have on your left side more of a goal scoring threat, and you play this Bernardo on the right, he's very effective. Another comment, actually, sorry, one sec. David Villa, he's a left wing, but I wouldn't play him on the left. We're going to talk about him again, the striker. This Mbappe here, by the way. So I talked about Showtime Mbappe. This the eFootball 23 one, being very good. This free Mbappe is like 99% of the player that Showtime Mbappe is. So if you have this guy, he is very good, and you should. I actually don't see him used that often. I think he is very effective. And my right wing is probably one of my weakest positions in the club. But if there's one guy, I bought him twice actually. Which one do I use? So I've used both. So I bought him twice. But this Yamal is good. I have a video dedicated to this Yamal. I think he is. Honestly, he's right behind Salah. You just notice the finishing, but it's not that this guy can't score crazy goals. It's just, I don't know, like if he has 10 shots that you think you can score from, he will score 7 of them, but 2 of them are just gonna go like completely wide. Whereas with Salah will score 8 or 9 of them, and then the one that doesn't go in isn't gonna go like really far wide. It's not gonna look bad. Which I guess doesn't actually make him that much better, but this Yamal is really good. If we look at his goals to game, that's a goal nearly every 1 in 3.5 games, or 3 and a third, 3.3 every 3.3 games. Whereas this guy's 2.67, is it? I'm sorry, I might be bad at maths. So the considering this is a GP card and this one's anyway, but if I got the maths wrong, pretty not that far off. This guy costs €150 potentially. This guy costs nothing. He was whatever 90,000 GP probably. You're very good. Okay, so now we're gonna go and probably talk about the position everyone's most interested in, and we're gonna talk about centre forward. So we already have a Messi in here. This Messi's very good at centre forward, so you can play him there. He's definitely top tier. Same with this Messi. I think this Messi's probably best at actually centre forward. I think this one's best in the middle. Probably something to do with the build though. I did give him 97 finishing. That would be a factor. Honourable mention to Eto. I think Eto, I started off not liking him, but he actually has one of the highest goals to games ratios for me. And it's because I figured out if you hit finesse shots with him, he's way more effective. And if you look at his curl, it's only 80. That's very low. That's why I struggled at the start. I did start trying to hit finesse shots and I had more success. You'll notice one thing about strikers is they don't actually have a lot of curl. So if we go to the next player, Romario also, he only has 73 curl. So this just goes to show you finesse shots in the box anyway are more about kick and power and finishing. You don't need high curl. Curl is more important for outside curling. But this Romario, I don't actually particularly like him. He's got a very good goals to game ratio for me, but I actually don't have that much fun when I use him. I have a lot of fun when I use the more recent Romario that I got on my free to play account in the free spin, but this one not as much. The difference between these Romarios really is this one has AI playing styles, whereas the other one doesn't, the newer one. And the Japanese players knew before before the other one came out, sorry, and we seen the card, the database, they knew it was going to perform better because it didn't have AI playing styles. I don't know what they understand about the AI playing styles because I don't. Excuse me, I don't look at it, but they seem to know. And when they were right about it, definitely a lot more respect in my books towards them. Another honorable mention to David Villa. I do have a lot of fun using this guy. He's a very good player, but I use him more as a super sub and a pure finisher. But he came off the bench and scored 3 or 4 goals for me yesterday. A player who I think is kind of overrated is Rumi. I don't I think actually maybe not overrated because I actually don't see people use him, but people were so excited about this card and I never see him. I don't think he's terrible, but I do think he's more of a utility player that can, which is why I have a super sub on him. I bring him off the bench. So if I'm winning, usually if I'm winning and I want to hold on to the lead but not go pure defensive, I want to still be a threat going forward, I'll bring on Rumi and kind of press from the front and use his physical and his pace and stuff. So he is a good player, but I don't think he's as good as hyped as he was maybe back in PES. And then the last player I want to talk about for striker position is Bellingham, and I think this is his best position. You can see here I trained him at centre forward and at SS. So in SS, well, he's best actually as an SS to the side, so actually like this here, but it'd be very narrow, and it's essentially a striker. But you can also play him up front, and he's just quality. Like he is just really good. But if I had to pick the best striker I've used, the best centre forward, it's either gonna be this Messi. Let's look at his goals to game ratio: 488 games, 400 goals, and 190 assists. So if we want to just round them up, 500 games, 400 goals, and 200 assists. So that's a pretty good return. This guy is my favorite player to use in eFootball. Bar one, who I'm not actually sure who's better, but I will get to him in a second. This guy is I love this Messi. He's just plays like he does in real life, and I have so much fun with it. And it's interesting how the player who I think is probably the best in the game, and you can see it from his goals to game ratio, is a deep line forward. That the meta players don't really like him, and I can understand why. But I just too think it is an example of you don't need to use meta players to perform at your best. If that's not how you want to play, use your Messi as a deep line forward and make him a false nine and have fun that way. And then the last player that would compete with Messi is this Diego Maradona. And this Maradona is similar to Eto. I really didn't like him for the first few games. Actually, this Messi was the same as well. I didn't like him. He was my least favorite at the start. But this Maradona I didn't like. And when I was looking at the AMF, some of you were probably thinking, how is Maradona not getting picked there? And it's just, I really don't like him at attacking midfielder. And I think what it is I think it's because when I give the ball to Maradona, I'm trying not to pass. I'm trying to do everything with this guy. So if I start him further back, it's just too much of a task for him to do. And I just don't play good football. Whereas if he's a centre forward and I play it to him up there, all he has to do is beat 1 or 2 people and then he can put it in the back of the net. Whereas if I do AMF, he's going to have to beat 3 or 4 people and hold on to the ball for 30 seconds. And he's capable of doing that. But over the long run, I do think it's better off if I play him at centre forward. So his goals to games ratio is really good. And keep in mind, I did not like him for the first 40 to 60 games probably. So his goals to game ratio is probably, I don't know, we'll just estimate 40 games and 15 goals or 60 games and 15 goals or something like that. So he's, I hope in the long term I can get him to catch up and kind of get a positive goals to game ratio because I don't have it with any player. Any player that I've played more than probably 20 games with. It's just not the way I score goals. I always kind of spread them out and make subs. So if we look at the team overall, you can see here it's actually we'll fill in the last few spots actually because there is something interesting I want to talk about. So the best players out of these guys that I haven't picked here, probably Baggio just for pure dribbling. Romario, because despite him not being as good as I think the other version is, I do think he is better. But the other version would be up higher in my kind of list. I'm gonna throw Saliba in because he was a firm starter in my team for such a long time. How many games I got him? 300 games, and he only came out how many days ago? 100 days ago, just a bit over 100 days ago. And I haven't really been playing for the last month as well. So yeah, he got a lot of game time for me. And then I think I want to go with either Kante or Wilshere. I think I'm gonna go with Wilshere just because more people probably have access to him. So these are my favorite players from eFootball 24. So the one thing I wanted to comment on was how many of these are free to play and / how many of them came from eFootball 23. So Hullet is the only one there who came from eFootball 23. So it kind of does show that the power curve and the power creep does kind of play into it come into effect, and it pushes up. So if you buy a player now, you think, okay, I'm going to have them forever, but realistically, they're not going to last you an extremely they're not going to last you more than like a year and a half. Like if you want to keep up to date and be as competitive as possible. If you don't want to, you don't care about that, it's fine. But it's interesting that Hullet's the only player that's kind of managed to last this long, because I've always said Hullet's the reason Hullet's so good isn't because of his stats, it's because of his player ID. If he didn't have wouldn't have leveled up, he'd still be very good. And Rijkaard and Van Basten from that pack. Van Basten was always kind of not mid, but he was good, but not amazing. But Rijkaard used to be my favorite centre back. Did I go buy him? I must have. Yeah, he used to be my favorite centre back, but he just kind of fell off. Maybe I don't know, 6 months ago, just became a lot weaker, and then players like Beckenbauer became a lot stronger. If we compare Beckenbauer to Rijkaard, you can see Beckenbauer has a lot better stats than everywhere, so it kind of does make sense. Another kind of honorable mention is this De Jong. Again, this De Jong is actually better on the ball than Beckenbauer. Now he is a little bit worse defensively, but that aggression is kind of a big difference. And he also doesn't have interception, but honestly, I never noticed too much issues with him. And he's also an eFootball 23 player. But yeah, only one eFootball 23 player lasted the whole way till the end of the eFootball 24. And he would have came out towards the end. He would have came out probably June of last year, maybe, maybe July. So I got my money's worth out of him anyway. In terms of how many of these cards are free to play, well, first off, I'm only seeing Costa Curta, Beckenbauer, Yamal. Well, okay, Costa Curta, Beckenbauer, Wilshere, Saliba, Yamal, and you can include Bellingham. Well, you can argue about that, but I would include Bellingham just because he was only 900 coins, so he's definitely attainable for free to play players. So you can see here, there is a good amount of free to play cards, but it is mostly pay to win cards, and it is mostly attacking players that are the pay to win cards. I feel like defending is more your ability rather than your player's ability, but which is why I don't really spend on defenders. I think Vieira is the only one, but he's a midfielder. Lamb's another one I spent on, but I actually only spun for him because I wanted Mateus. So yeah, I don't really spend on defenders. To be fair, I did actually spend for Tomiyasu. I think Tomiyasu is one of the few defenders that I spent money on. And I think it's how people should spend money. I think if you're not someone who's going to spend all your money on the game, just get attackers and players you like in real life. But it is an interesting look at kind of my favorite players. So I want to do a video talking about the best players. So players I don't have access to, like Thuram. It'll be mostly defenders really. Thuram, Maldini, Nesta, and maybe some players up front like Cruyff, and some other midfield players like Makalele. Would he get in over Gilberto? Stuff like that. And also, we're going to do a free-to-play version where we just look at free-to-play players. So I do think Beckenbauer and Costa Curta, if they're getting in this team, they're definitely getting in my free-to-play team. But I never see people use Beckenbauer anymore. I think you guys, I'm going to base the video around your guys' suggestions. I think you guys aren't going to put Beckenbauer in that. And I'm surprised at that, but that's how you guys play the game. So I'd like to kind of start a discussion and see what you guys think.